Thoothukudi, so has been published in Kalki magazine. He has also a number of professional contributions. He has been a paper setter. He's been chief guest and in many of the national international meetings. He has a membership in many scientific bodies. I think if I don't stop here, I will be the whole meeting. I'll be talking about his research credentials. Dr. L. Vendan, we are very much eagerly waiting for your talk. I think I will give the dais to Dr. Ailil Vedan. Before we go for the talk, students, I would like to give a few instructions. Please mute your mics. Everybody mute your mics, and all your questions which you want to ask Dr. Ailil Vedan we will have a discussion at the end of the meeting. Now, I request everybody to turn on your cameras for a photo session. Please, everybody, please turn on your cameras.
Shall I upload my PPT?
Yes, Dr. Eleven, you can do it.
Now slide is visible, ma'am?
Not yet, doctor.
Okay. And now slide is visible. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Professor Dr. Sri Priya, madam, for your brief introduction about me. Before going to talk about the pesticides importance for insect pest management, I would like to thank the organizing committee, secretary, principal, and HOD madam, Dr. Hermine Prasanka, and coordinator member secretary, Dr. Arogya Genesius, and department coordinator, Dr. Gemma Hermelin, and organizing secretaries, Professor Mary, and Professor Dr. Sri Priya. Thank you very much to you all for giving this opportunity to share my experience, research experience in the field of pesticides for the management of insect pests in post-harvest food storage. Now I am going to talk about specifically on pesticides, that is chemical versus natural, for the safe storage of food grains from insect pests. Our institute, CFTRI, Central Food Technological Research Institute, is one of the laboratory under CSIR, that is Council of Scientific and Industrial Research. All over the country, around 41 labs are there. So our lab is one of the lab of CSIR. Mainly all CSIR labs, we are focusing on industrial oriented research. That means especially for product development and technology development. Regarding to agriculture, national level, CFTRI is one of the premier institute in post-harvest food processing and food security. Our department under post-harvest management, our department focusing on grain storage and in infestation control and the stored food products. This is brief about our institute and our nature of work in our institute. We know that in agriculture, mainly two sector is there. One is pre-harvest and then other one is post-harvest. For with the increase of global population, at the same time, food demand also increasing. Food demand also increasing. Main thing is one thing is we have to improve the food production. At the same time, we have to save the produced food products or food materials. Here, these two things very important in agriculture sector. So in both pre-harvest also, post-harvest also. Pre-harvest, commonly we know that we are managing the pests, mainly insect pests, using chemical pesticide. That is the efficient or most dominated weapon, rightly we were for managing the insect pests in the crop field condition. This is well-known thing. But at the same time, in post-harvest storage, um, we are storing the raw food grains for and processed food products at large scale level of storage godowns, for example, FCI godowns, warehouses, and plant quarantines. As well as at farm level also, we are storing the grains till transporting to marketing place. So here at farm storage or in the large scale level of warehouses, also similar to pre-harvest, here also insect infestation and problem is there. But here the main thing is in crop field condition, easily we can spray our chemical pesticide and we can control the pests. But it is not possible in the storage godowns. We well known that if we spray the pesticide means ultimately that will contaminate with our food grains and that will cause a different kind of demerits in our health system as well as in the environment. This is one side about food loss due to insect infestation. At the same time, we are facing storage loss due to inadequate facilities in our country. Whereas in developed countries, in temperate countries, for example, Australia, European countries, US, and Canada, their infestation is less comparative to tropical countries. And then, due to the economical status for managing the storage grain and managing the pest, they have well equipped storage systems for large scale level storage, especially silo storage system. So their food grain protection or storage management, it is more. I mean, food loss is less comparative to tropical country like our country. So in our country, because of the inadequate storage facility, still we are facing every annually we are facing storage food grain loss. This is one side, and then at the same time, insect pest infestation. These are the current scenario in our country. Generally, pests are classified into different types in both field, crop field, as well as in the post-harvest storage area. So these are the different types: insects, mites, rodents, snails, and microorganisms and nematodes. Out of these, insects are major destroyers called as pests in both the field and food storage area. Coming to biodiversity, we well known that insects are most dominated group in the global biodiversity uh, because of well adaptation and amazing morphology, physiology, and behavior, infestation tactics. So mm, around 22 percentage of organisms are belongs to beetle group in the insect, and second category is butterflies. Small species belongs to lepidopteran group. So this is in global diversity scenario. As like that, in agriculture field also, in man-made agro ecosystem or in the post-harvest storage system. In both conditions, lepidopterans and coleopterans are dominated in the term of pests. So why I am mentioning this point? As like wild environment, in agriculture field environment also, these two groups are dominated. How? Why? It is because of insect adaptation, peculiar features, physiology, those things. Now, insects found everywhere except ozone. Now, in storage gudons, storage houses, we are seeing the insect pest and the processed food also. That insect life cycle for some species completing their life cycle within the whole grain or within the processed food products. How? Because of their genetic adaptation. Now here one question will come. Now we visit insect pests completing their life cycle within a grain or seed or in a storage area or within the processed product means, is it those species completely adapted to that environment? Is it not available in the field environment? That question will come. No. So the same species till now also surviving in the field environment, wild environment. So due to the food scarcity or population increase, insects are migrating from the natural environment to this kind of man-made grain storage environment. These are all some examples of field crop pests and insect stages, egg, larvae, pupae, and adult stages. Vegetable Helicarpa, Migera, Spodoptera, Litura. These are all most common bollworm, armyworms, causing damages in vegetable crops, brinjal, tomato, like that. And then some other aphids and moth species also causing damage in the crop fields. So in the crop field condition, as already said, how we are managing the pests using chemical pesticides mainly. The main mechanism is in a two-way we are managing the pests. One is contact toxicity by oral feeding, and then second one is internal contact toxicity based on the feeding behavior. So, we know that synthetic chemical pesticides are highly toxic. So, if those chemicals settled or reach the insect body means that will rupture the cell insect surface membrane, and because of lipophilicity nature, that compound will degrade the affect the insect tissue and ultimately insect will die. This is based on contact toxicity principle. Second one is oral feeding. Oral feeding means that sedimented pesticide chemicals on the crop foliage that will enter into the insect body through mouth, and that will reach the insect gut. So that become poisoning, and ultimately insect will die. So this is general principle in insect pest control in crop field condition. But coming to post-harvest storage, this mechanism is totally different. In the later slide, I will explain. So mainly we can classify insects into two types. One is beneficial, and then other one is harmful. Beneficial, for example, pollinators, predators, parasites, those things. Harmful insects means insect pests, vectors, mosquito vector, house flies, fruit flies, those things. All over the world, around 1 million species, insect species identified. Out of that, 10,000 species are known as pests, and then 1,000 species are recognized as store product pests, and 700 species known as major store product pest, which commonly found in all store product area. As already said, polyopterans are dominated around 60%, and lepidopterans 8% in the post-harvest storage infestation. These are all some examples of major store product insect pests, which is causing damages in stored grain and processed products, flour or milled products, and then pulses and oil seeds. These are all major store product lepidopteran species and beetle species. Mainly, we can classify into two types based on the feeding habit, that is feeding habit and survival habit. One is internal feeder, and then other one is external feeder. Internal feeder means those insects complete their life cycle within the whole grain or pulses. External feeder means those species will complete their life cycle completely outside the grain. This is based on the feeding habit and life cycle. In another term, based on the infestation, we can classify into two types. One is primary feeders, and then other one is secondary feeders. Primary feeders means those insects will infest the grain, which is whole grain or fresh grains. If secondary feeder means those insects will cause the damage on the already infested grains or food products. So like that classifications are there. So not only in stored pulses or grains or flours, insect pests also causing damages in stored spices. So these are all some examples. Coming to life cycle, normally insect will survive 2 to 3 months, and they will lay the eggs minimum 200 to 500 eggs. It's depend on the species. It's variable. So in a stored commodity, if we release one female insect, means that will lay the eggs 200 to 500, and within 2 3 months that may populate more, and whole stored commodity will become loss only. So in post-harvest management, periodical monitoring is very important for safe storage of food grains. Okay, these are all peculiar features. Because of that features, insects are multiplying more or surviving more in the food storage environment as well as in the crop field environment. Insects have wings. Because of that, they will migrate from the field crop environment to food storage area. This is one way of route of entry to food storage area based on flight behavior. The other thing is when we harvesting the food grains at the stage itself, as already I said, internal feeders are there. So what will happen? Those insect will lay eggs on the grain that will enter into the grain. When we harvesting or storing at farm level, those infestation is not visible. So when packing or bringing to storage godown, infestation will not be there visibly. But after storing few months from that storage area, more number of insect will come out. So this is second way of migration from field condition to crop field condition. One is based on flight adaptation, and second one is based on infestation tactics. In addition to that, complex metamorphosis and different mouth parts and reproductive behavior. Because of these futures, insects infesting food grains more and populating more and causing huge food loss. Mainly insects infesting the food commodities for the purpose of feeding and for oviposition behavior or egg deposition behavior and for habitat, shelter purpose. Because of these three purpose only, insects infesting the food grains. After infestation, we will face two kind of food losses. One is direct loss, and then second one is indirect food loss. So direct food loss means due to infestation, that stored grains last will be less, and then nutrient quality will be less, and then infestation will affect the germination of seeds, and then because of sedimentation of or contamination of fecal pellet or insect fragments, or because of secreted insect compounds, that stored commodities sensory quality may decrease. Because of that, uh, stored commodity grade will less and market value is less. These are all direct losses due to insect infestations. And then due to insect infestation, secondarily fungal infestation may come. Um, Mainly insect will prefer to survive at the center of the stored food commodities. This is because of physicochemical nature. That means we know that in the storage container or in the stored gunny bag system, at center, um, internal temperature will be little more comparative to the peripheral region. So insect will prefer optimum or optimum temperature. So because of this temperature preference, insect will survive at the center of the stored grain. So that part commonly called as hot spot. Okay. So what will happen after insect infestation, and if population is increased more means that will create moisture. Temperature will decrease, and then moisture will increase because of insect infestation. If moisture will increase means ultimately microbial infestation will come, infection will come, especially fungal. infections, Aspergillus, Niger, those species. This is secondary type of food spoilage in the stored food grains. If fungal infection is there, means we know that fungal species will produce different types of toxins, mycotoxins. We can call as aflatoxin. So those toxins will accumulate in the stored grain, so that will cause different kind of side effects. If that may cause toxicity. That is, if we consumed those foods, means food poisoning may happen, or some allergic reaction may happen. So this is mainly due to fungal infection and aflatoxin contaminants in stored food grains, and then pesticide residues and loss of consumer confidence. This is a schematic model of population, how population will increase in the stored food commodity. As already I said, if we release one female insect inside the stored bag, means after 3 months it become 1 billion eggs. So 1 billion eggs. So if we didn't take care of that stored food commodity, that stored whole grain will become loss only. So periodical infestation detection and monitoring is important. According to our Indian guideline, especially FSSAI and FCI guideline, if insect persistent is 1 or 2 in 500 gram of sample, means that is called as moderate level of infestation. If is it less 0, means infestation is clear. If is it more than 2 individuals per 5 gram, means that become heavy infestation. So based on this infestation, if is it infestation is clear 0 infestation, means no need to do fumigation or some other control measures. If infestation is moderate level, means immediately we have to go for fumigation process. If infestation is heavy, means we have to go to secondary fumigant, that is methyl bromide. I will explain later in detail. So based on the monitoring and detection, we have to go for fumigation process for controlling the insect pests in stored food commodities. Now, before going to control methods, we can see about infestation tactics and sensory behavior of insects. As already I said, the stored product be insects now surviving in both condition, crop field condition, also in stored environment also. Here, this is one example. Calasobruchus maculatus, commonly known as pulse beetle or cowpea beetle. This is a major pulse beetle pest, commonly will found in all kind of pulses: green gram, black gram, chickpea, green pea, in all kind of pulses. Here, this species unique feature is, and in the field condition, the adults are feeders, active feeders, so that will feed nectars and pollen grains from the flowers, and that will lay the eggs on the surface of pods. Whereas coming to stored product environment, these things will not, I mean, adults are non-feeders. Because of this kind of stored product environment adaptation, some individuals or populations modified into inactive flyers. Whereas in the field conditions, those things are active flyers. But coming to storage environment, that flying ability is decreasing. So these are all unique features of this pulse beetle. And the one more major pest is rice weevil, commonly known as rice weevil or grain beetle. It is commonly found in all kind of grains, rice, wheat, maize, and then in pulses also it will infest. Um, Nowadays, this species well tolerant species. It's well tolerant to chemical pesticide, and this species develop resistant against conventional fumigant and pesticide. So nowadays, in the current trend, it is difficult to manage this pest, this Cytophilus oryzae or Cytophilus groups. Two more major species are there with the same peculiar behavior. Okay, here the important thing is this species peculiar behavior is this species will lay eggs inside the grain, whereas that previous one that will lay eggs outside the grain. So this species first it will make a hole in the grain and that will deposit the egg. After that, that will seal with ester molecule, vaccine molecules for sealing the whole part, egg laid part. So then, as earlier said, after egg laying, it is impossible, it is not visible to see the infestation. So that's why when we brought from farmland, it is not possible to predict the infestation in the stored food grains. So these both species are internal feeders. So what will happen after egg laying? That thing develop into larvae and pupae within the grain, and finally develop into adult that will come out by making a hole. And further that will infest further stored grains. So this is peculiar behavior of those two major store product insect pests. Internal feeder. If is it external feeder means those species will lay eggs on the surface of stored food commodities or near to the stored food commodities. So that means from that egg larvae will develop. Larvae will migrate from um, from other area towards the stored commodity. So this is about infestation behavior. Now, how insects are finding or specifically approaching the host? That developed organisms, mammals, we have specialized sensory system, visual system, or visual system or olfactory system. So easily we can identify the our preferable food source or habitats or surrounding environment, that thing. But whereas coming to insect, same thing, but insects don't have nose as like developed organisms. Then how insects are finding specific host? So it is mainly because of three sensory system. One is photoreceptor, that is eye system, and then second one mechanoreceptor and chemoreceptor. Here the interesting thing is, as already I said, internal feeders. They are laying eggs only on the host seeds or grains, on the surface or inside. If the host source is not available means they will not lay the eggs as like external survivors or feeders. How means because of these sensory systems only. So insects have different types of antenna, which is playing a role in olfactory, um, sensory behavior. For example, in pulse beetle, that which commonly infesting pulse grains, pulses, and peculiar behavior, that is laying eggs on the surface of pulses. In this type of beetles, um, this elongated flagellomere type of antenna is present, serrated type. In female, comparative to male, length is more, and then each fragment size also more. That means sensory organelles are more because of involving in oviposition behavior and reproduction behavior. Coming to each sensory organelles have a specific role. For example, a sensory trachea one means that will recognize the olfaction, recognize the olfactory molecules. That means attractant molecules from the host seed. If is it non-host seed or crop, whatever it's from that plant also continuously will emit molecules. If is it non-host plant means based on the sensilla trachea one, insect will reject, or insect will not favor that plant. So based on the sensilla trachea one, insects are identifying or predicting the specific host and infesting by the way of egg laying performance or feeding performance. Like that, different sensilla and other organelles are there, playing a role in different behavior. For example, trachea 2 means reproductive behavior, especially for recognizing pheromone chemicals, aggregation, or sexual pheromone chemicals. For recognizing the surrounding environment. I mean, as already I said, insect will prefer little temperature high area. So this is based on the grooved peaks. If temperature is less, means that is unfavorable. So that condition will be recognized by grooved peaks. So for moisture content, humidity, environment humidity, or grain moisture recognition, sensilla cavity playing a role. Okay, based on these peculiar features, insects are recognizing specific host in both the field also as well as in the stored environment also. And then second most important system is visual system. Here the interesting thing is most of the pest species are both in field and storage environment. Most of these species are nocturnal species. So that means those insects are very active during night time, dark time. So then how under dark condition, how they are specifically recognizing the host means one is based on this olfactory sensory system, and then second one is based on the highly magnified visual sensory system. These are all peculiar features of the insects. Okay, now we saw about food loss, and then types of insect infestations and host seeking behaviors, these things. Now we can see how we can control the pests, control or we can manage the pest in the storage godowns or warehouses. As earlier I said, in the field condition, chemical method is well-known method, pesticide spray. Now, because of chemical pesticide impact in the environment, soil, water, and then through residual contaminant and through food chain, it will affect human health system also. So because of this drawback, now all over, I mean, the whole world, we are moving to organic farming, and mainly we are trying to use organic pesticides, that is botanical or microbial pesticides, these things in the field, crop field condition. Coming to post harvest, is it those kind of control methods are applicable or not? Means it's not applicable. Here in a post-harvest environment, after infestation, the only method is fumigation fumigation technology. With the use of fumigant insecticides, we can control or we can manage the insect pests. But lot of technologies are developed and reported, but those things not commercialized or lacking of applicability in the large scale storage areas. So mainly we are managing the pest by using fumigant insecticides. Okay. Fumigant insecticides also coming under chemical pesticide category. We know that in chemical pesticide, different classes are there: organic, inorganic, organophosphate, organochlorine, pyrethroids. Different types are there. As like that, fumigant insecticides also respiratory poisonous gaseous insecticides. And then based on pesticide physical nature, we can classify into three types. One is a dust form of pesticide, powder form of pesticide, and liquid form of pesticide, that is emulsifiable concentrate. At present in our country, around 700 pesticides or pesticide formulations are registered based on 291 technical ingredients. Some of the pesticides are banned due to environmental impact or other side effects. And according to WHO, we can classify the pesticides based on the toxicity level, like extremely hazardous or moderately hazardous or highly hazardous, like that. Based on the mode of action, we can classify into physical, poisonous, respiratory, or growth regulatory, or neurotoxic pesticides. Okay, based on the killing effect in insects at different life stages, we can classify into feeding deterrent, ovicidal, larvicidal, ovipotent deterrent, attractant, repellent, growth regulators, these things. Okay, these are all about pesticides principle and types and formulations and current status availability or usage. Coming to post-harvest, I mean stored food commodity management, mainly we are managing the infestation by two methods. One is prophylactic method and then other one is fumigation. Prophylactic method means before storing the food grain, we have to take precautions by the way of maintaining hygienic condition. I mean that storage area should be very clean, and that seal, I mean cracks or old bags tags also we should not keep inside. So these are all some precautions we have to take out. And then before we can use chemical pesticide, residual pesticide also under this prophylactic treatment. That means before storing the grain, we can spray the pesticide on the ground floor and the wall, which if already insects are surviving or hiding in the cracks in the floor or in the wall, means we can kill them by spraying pesticides. According to CIBRC, these four pesticides only recommended for prophylactic treatment, and these are all synthetic chemical pesticides only. Uh, then this prophylactic treatment is for before storing the food grain for preventing infestation or entering the insects into the storage goodowns. Prevention treatment. Now next, fumigation treatment. In the fumigation treatment at present, two fumigant only allowed. One is phosphine gas fumigant, and then other one is methyl bromide. But both fumigants also, it's not recommended to all common people to use for post-harvest grain storage management. Specifically, license holders only have to use these fumigants at large scale storage godowns only, not for small scale storages. So all over the world, a lot of fumigants develop highly poisonous fumigants in the form of gas, but because of severe poisonous and some other demerits, most of the fumigants banned all over the world. And all over the world, I mean, our whole world now completely depend on phosphine fumigant only. In our country also, in all over the ground, we are using single pesticide only, that is phosphine. Then the other one, methyl bromide, is for restricted area, highly restricted area, especially harbors, plant quarantines for exporting purpose. So our country completely depending on phosphine only. It's not like field crop pest management. So this is the important thing. Now uh, what happened because of repeated application of this fumigant, as like field condition here in the stored environment also, insects developed resistance against the fumigant. This is one of the major problem in the current situation in our country. So still people's trying to find out alternative fumigants. In our institute, in our department, we are trying to find out eco-friendly or nature or plant-based fumigants for safe uh, storage and safe usage of fumigants in the storage godowns. Phosphine is available in the form of tablet, and methyl bromide is available in the form of liquid. And both methyl bromide and phosphines are gaseous, so that means vapor pressure is very high, molecular weight is very low. So that's why easily those fumigants penetrating into the stored food commodity, and ultimately that will kill the insect pest at all stages, egg larvae, pupae, and adult stages. In addition to phosphine methyl bromide, some other fumigants, sulfuryl fluoride, ethyl formate, HCN, ethylene, ethane dinitrile, those things are also current in use in other developed countries. But in our country, those things not recommended, not prescribed for use. So this is the view of fumigation, I mean grain storage and fumigation setup at warehouses and FCI godowns. Normally, If we are going to do fumigation means 5 days we have to keep that fumigation setup for achieving 100% insect control. Whereas in the crop field today, if we spray the pesticide means within 24 hours we will get 90 to 100% insect control. Whereas in the storage godown, normally we have to keep 7 days. Then only we can achieve 100% insect control. In between, if we degassed or if we remove the packed thing means immediately insect also will multiply. So these are all common procedures of fumigation thing, fumigation method and prophylactic thing. Now coming to mechanism of action, as already said, fumigants are gaseous substances. So gaseous substances means that will kill the insect by affecting respiration, insect respiration. So in insect, we know that the lateral region spiracles are there. So through that spiracles, phosphine will enter into the respiratory system and then insect will die. This is phosphine, I mean gaseous fumigants mechanism. Now different plant volatiles or phytochemicals based fumigants also we are developing. So those molecules vapor pressure is less. So the mechanism of action is most of the molecules have high lipophilic nature. So because of that, that will settle on the cuticular layer and that will rupture the cuticular layer and that will penetrate into the inner side of the insect body. So because of the phenomena, insect will die. This is based on plant molecules based fumigant treatment. Coming to human part, safety measure is very important. We know that in the crop field condition, farmers without taking precautions, I mean wearing gloves or mask, farmers simply they will spray the liquid pesticides. But in storage conditions, precaution is very important because already I said these things are gaseous. So if we inhale this kind of fumigants means this kind of impacts will happen in our health system. If we inhale more means within 24 hours, death may occur. So safety precaution wearing mask, gloves, and isolated storage area. I mean fumigating area. These things are all important for applying the fumigation technology. And then coming to pesticide toxicities, we know that in the crop field conditions, sprayed chemical pesticides will settle on the crop foliage as well as in the fruits and vegetables. Based on our recent research and publication, we proved that some pesticide molecules are penetrating into the inner side of, I mean, inner core of the vegetable. So what will happen after washing the vegetable also? Pesticide residues may persist inside the, I mean, inner core of the vegetable. It is difficult to remove the molecule. So this is mainly based on dosage application in the crop field condition. Now, what will happen? Farmers, because of resistant development in insect and incapability of control, farmers trying to use heavy dose or overdose. So because of this overdose, what will happen? Pesticide molecule, more amount of molecule will penetrate into the vegetable, and ultimately that will reach our body, and we will face different kind of health effects, including cancer risk. We know that some of the organochlorines are acting as carcinogenic pesticides, endosulfan, DDT, linden. So nowadays, most of the organochlorines are banned in the country. Okay, so because of these side effects, now we are moving to organic farming or biopesticides in the crop field condition. But in the storage environment, as already I said, it is not possible because of application strategy. And then recently means 5 years back in US, Purdue University, they developed a bag. This is a non-chemical based storage technique without any chemical. How we can preserve the grain from insect infestation. Now it is coming to market. And our TNAU, Tamil Nadu Agriculture University, developed a different detection physical traps. You know, all over the country at a large scale storage areas, people are using these kind of traps for detection and monitoring in the monitoring of insect infestation in the storage areas. And some other traps and some other chemical methods are available for insect infestation and detection and monitoring. So because of this chemical pesticides nature, negative impacts in nature, now we are moving to IPM strategy, that is integrated approach of pest management, which is mostly suitable for field crop management. In the crop field condition, it is not suitable. But even though in our department, in our institute, we have developed biofumigation based technology. As soon that thing will come to market, both for large scale level and small scale level protection. I mean, without using highly toxic chemicals, how we can store. So for that, our institute technologies will come. And then how we are developing or formulating botanical pesticide means based on the defense chemicals present in the plant's system. So under natural conditions, those defense molecules will repel or repel the insect, or those molecules may toxic to the insects. So based on these principles, especially terpenoids, nitrogen containing compounds and phenolic compounds. So based on these principles, we are extracting the molecules from the plants. If is it for residual formulation means organic solvent extract based method. Well known example is neem based pesticides. I mean azadirachtin based pesticides. If is it for post-harvest management and fumigation technology means based on the hydro distillation or steam distillation, we can extract the volatile molecules and we can formulate as a fumigant. So these are all biofumigants and biopesticides development from the plants. Now in the storage area, the plant substance main drawback is low vapor pressure, less permeability, and residual nature. So these are all major drawbacks of plant volatiles. At the same time, these plant volatiles are safe for use and target specific, and insect will not develop resistance against these molecules. Whereas phosphine means insect will develop resistance, and that is highly toxic to man, and that's not applicable at home scale level. Other than botanicals, some other methods, biological methods also available. That is predator and parasiticide methods. These are all eco-friendly methods, which is mostly useful for crop field pest management. But for most of the stored product insect also, those predators, parasitites identified and reported, but because of lacking application strategy, it's not feasible to use at field level. And then based on the insect secreting semiochemicals also, different types of traps developed available, specifically pheromones, that is attractant molecules, allomones, that is based on defense molecule, and pheromones based on aggregation behavior or sexual behavior, that is sex pheromone. So based on these principles, different chemicals isolated and developed as traps, sex pheromone traps, aggregation pheromone traps, and other traps for trapping the insects. So these are all insects, and these are all pheromones and traps developed for the developed for the detection or monitoring of stored product insects at uh, storage areas. Now, in our warehouses also, for monitoring purpose, we are using this kind of different physical chemical traps. Okay. Thank you all. Maximize. Um, if anybody have doubts or questions, really you all can ask.
Students, you can unmute your microphone and you can clarify your doubts or put your questions in the chat box.
Is it participants all are UG graduates or PG graduate or research scholar? How? Okay, one question came, sir. Did the pesticides have any impact on earthworm? Yes. In the crop field condition, if we, those chemical pesticides, surely that will affect the earthworm population. Surely impact is there. So that's why we are promoting natural organic fertilizers and organic pesticides for increasing the earthworm population and eco-friendly way of approach. Yes, this is interesting thing. Can we totally replace chemical fumigants with biofumigants in future? No, it's not possible because as already I said, chemical fumigants, that is gaseous fumigants, vapor pressure is very high. So at 1,000-ton level of storage, if we want to fumigate, means gaseous form of fumigant only useful. Biofumigants are not useful because of low vapor pressure thing. So some restrictions are there. So in future, um, without fumigants, we can protect the grain by using modified atmospheric storage system, silo storage system. So that kind of thing may come.
Any more questions, girls? Any more questions? So I have a question, Dr. Elvedhan. I think you can hear me.
Yes, I'm hearing that.
Is genetic engineering a way to control the insects in a safe way rather than using chemical pesticides?
In post grain storage or pre-harvest management?
Both. Like I am
Both.
I'm in the field and
Yes,
also
yes.
as the post harvest.
Yes, madam. Actually, in pre-harvest means we well known that BT-based GMO crops are familiar. So that is much effective only. So much effective only. And then in developed countries, especially in US or Canada, they are using GMO BT based vegetable crops and cash crops. But in our country, it is not allowed for food crops. It is allowed for cash crops only. So that's why BT brinjal or BT bendi, it's not introduced in our country. This is benefit as like insect developing resistance against pesticide, same thing against the genetic crops also insects developed resistance because the GT crop means especially cry proteins. So against that specific proteins, insect developed resistance, and then because of population genetics also, um later that insects are adapted to the GMO crops. This is a drawback of GMO crops in field crop pest management. Coming to post-harvest GMO crops or GMO crops based grains are not developed or available in the market. We are depending on fumigation based technology only.
Thank you, Dr. Elvedhan.
Yes.
Students, do you have any more questions? So, if there are no more questions, Dr. Elvedhan, thank you for presentation. I would like Dr. Paripurna Selvi, Assistant Professor of Zoology, to say the vote of thanks.
A very good evening to everyone connected here. I will give thanks to Almighty God for making today's event a great success. Gratitude is the memory of the heart. I deem it a great honor and privilege to propose the vote of thanks on this memorable gratitude to Dr. S. Elvedhan, scientist, food protectants and infestation control department, CSIR Central Food Technological Research Institute. We had the opportunity to hear the talk on chemical food grains from insect pests. I am sure that the young minds would have been enlightened. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Adorning the occasion and sharing your expertise. Principal, Dr. Sister Lucia Rose, Deputy Principal, Dr. Sister Kulandai Teres, for their support and encouragement. A generous thanks to Dr. Hermin Pasanga, Associate Professor and Head Department of Zoology, Dr. Sister Aroti Genesius Alphonse, Assistant Professor of Botany, and overall coordinator of the Star College scheme, Dr. Gemma Hermelin Jessica, and all the faculty members of our department for their leading supervision and inspiration at every point of execution of the event. Finally, I would like to thank all the participants who made this day fruitful with their impressive participation. Thank you.
Thank you very much to you all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. It's a wonderful presentation. Our UG and PG students, they have attended this meeting. They have paper, applied entomology. This is very useful for them. Will you please send your PPT, sir?
PPT, I will send the notes, ma'am.
Okay, sir. Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Dear girls, thank you, Dr. Elil Vendan, for your presentation. For the students who are present over here, I would request you to fill the feedback form, which I will post here in this chat box. Please wait for the feedback form. I request everybody to fill the feedback form now. And those who are there in the YouTube link, there will be they will post the feedback link there, and you can fill it. Please don't forget to fill the feedback form. Please wait. I'm just posting the feedback form. Dr. Elil Vendan? Dr. Ma'am? Come in, ma'am.
Sri Priya?
I think the students have started filling the forms, ma'am. Shall we
Okay.
leave it for 5 more minutes?
Okay, okay.
Girls, we leave the form for 5 minutes. Please fill in the blank, fill in the form.
Sri Priya, some students have attended through YouTube.
So we have also given it to the YouTube link, ma'am.
Okay.
Patricia ma'am will post there in the YouTube link.
Okay.